Hi, everybody. So I think we're live. Let's just click on this and find out. Well, it says we're starting soon. Testing for live chat. Let's just pop out the chat. Here we go. So we haven't got the video on yet, so we'll have to find that, what that button is. And there we are. So hi, it's Jamie and
Bianca.
And we are live from the UK Arctic Research Station and Nyolison on Svalbard. Again, we're inside today. It's a rather hideous day today. It is, I think it's supposed to be -30 with wind chill outside. Being blizzardy all day, and the team sort of being confined to base. But it's really lovely to be able to talk to you. Maybe we can have a quick show outside, just to show you what it's like here. So I'm not sure whether we can see that view. If I just come around here, then I can sort of see what we're showing you guys. So you can see between those two houses, the London houses, that strip of black, that dark, that's the fjord over there. On a clear day, you can see right over about 3 kilometers across to the other side. But at the moment, it's fairly horrible. And so we've been confined inside with this really cold weather. This is our sitting room on the station, with a bit of some pictures, a reindeer, and a polar bear head made out of cardboard. Of course, everything that an Arctic research station needs. But we've seen some great questions coming in, and so we'll go through some of those. And if there's anything that's been sent through before, just give us a little bit of a reminder, and we'll come to that as well. It's great to have. Which schools have we got? We've got, and I never know whether you can say teachers' first names, but there's all these secret things I remember when I was a student. Anyway, great to have Jenna Burkett, Christina Hart, Jason Bruck, Kelly Crumley, and Jonesville Middle 6th grade history students ready to watch. This is fantastic. And we've got you, one class from Marion, Iowa, and 3rd grade students from Sterling, Illinois. Eagle Heights Elementary, Clinton, and IA, is that Iowa?
Iowa.
Oh, come on. Watching the library, Fort Worth, Texas, and State University of New York at Plattsburgh. Plattsburgh, yeah.
Cool.
Fantastic. Really looking forward to your questions from up here. So the reason why we're here at the UK Arctic Research Station is that the research team who are busy preparing climbing equipment and other kit, fingers crossed, to go up to the glacier tomorrow and looking at the inside of the glacier and what's basically sort of what shape it is at a very basic level, and also how that shape might change over the course of a melt season. And Marika, great to have you on board as well as ever, from Digital Explorer HQ in London. And really, a big welcome to everybody to XL Catlin Arctic Live and our 5th, I think, YouTube live session. Julie, great, and I know I've been meaning to go outside and get you a video, but it's been so horrible. I don't think you'd be able to hear that video recording if I sent it through. Is the weather is different, colder and less rainy? Well, in fact, yes, it is. It's much colder. It's about, with wind chill, about 28 degrees Celsius colder. Which in Fahrenheit is about 50 degrees colder, 50 degrees Fahrenheit colder. I'll let you.
Okay, Cole wants to know what kind of animals have we seen. This time we haven't really seen that much. It's pretty white outside. So I saw a reindeer yesterday, and we saw a ptarmigan as well, which is a kind of white grouse. from the Arctic. We've seen some seabirds, guillemots, and some fulmars, and that's about it. We're still on the lookout for polar bears and various other things, but we'll let you know if we see anything more. Sorry. Roughly how long will your team be able to safely explore under in the glacier? Several weeks. We're here just for 2 weeks, and there's one major hole in the glacier that they've explored so far, and then there's a meltwater channel that we've been into, and it looks like it's several hundred meters, and there are several of them. So I'm sure there's about a couple weeks worth of work to do. It just depends really on the weather and what they're able to get done in these kind of conditions.
Yeah, hopefully the weather will clear and we'll have a nice busy weekend spent inside a glacier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm just checking with you to see whether there's a list of questions that we may have mislaid that it would be great to answer that a class has sent through in advance.
Is there any water in the glacier now? Any liquid water? There is a little bit. It's actually a bit slushy in the bottom of the glacier, but everything's pretty frozen right now. It looks like there was some melt earlier on in the season, and so that allowed for some of the water to actually flow through the meltwater channels again, but it's all frozen right now and really quite cold.
Have we seen any narwhals? We can only see sort of like 100 yards at the moment. No, but I'd love to see a narwhal. I've never seen a narwhal, and that would be amazing. That Arctic cross between a dolphin and a unicorn.
Allison wants to know, Christina Hart, do you hear any animals at night? I haven't so far.
The dog pen's been howling a bit.
Has it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But not really, no. I mean, the only thing that you usually hear at night are Arctic foxes, and I haven't heard any this time at all.
Are there any igloos there? No igloos here. So Svalbard was discovered by Europeans in 1596, and I don't think there are any indigenous people here. But in Canada, the Inuit there are more adept at building igloos.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, we'd have to go to the Canadian Arctic in order to see igloos, or the ones that we could make here, but nobody's made any yet.
I think actually we have someone from Resolute Bay, an Inuit from Resolute Bay, explaining how to make an igloo in one of the videos on the YouTube, Digital Explorer YouTube. So have a look after this call.
One of my students wants to ask about the Northern Lights, but we forgot to ask, have you seen many displays this year? We haven't seen anything yet. Have you seen anything?
We had two in Longyearbyen. We had two amazing displays, and I think a couple of nights ago there's a sort of banner of Northern Light up above the Zeppelin Observatory above Ny-Ålesund. So we've had some amazing displays, but recently the weather has been pretty horrible, and of course with all this cloud and snow around, not very easy to see the Northern Lights.
Luis wants to know, what kind of storms do you have? Right now we just have a windstorm, and it's blowing all the snow around. So it looks like there's cloud, but I think it's mostly just snow that's blowing at this point.
How cold does it get? I think the coldest recorded temperature on Svalbard was minus 43 centigrade. Which is roughly 46 Fahrenheit, I think, minus 46 Fahrenheit. The warmest 19.6 centigrade, which is about 28 Fahrenheit. No, not 28 Fahrenheit, 78 Fahrenheit, sorry. But the coldest temperature you've ever experienced in the polar regions?
It was almost minus 40, it's like minus 38 or so. Yeah.
No. Which is very cold.
It's a bit cold. Could you describe some of the research goals for this project? Will you be mapping the glacier tunnels similar to a cave system? Has anything surprised you so far? Well, they so far that's exactly right. They're trying to map it just like a cave system. They have a really advanced laser system that spins and measures the distance between things and creates a 3D model. And so the idea is to, over time, over years, successive years, be able to map how these channels have changed. And I think the big surprise for the team here this year was that when they got to the mouth of the Moulin, which is this hole going into the glacier, they found that it was actually that the stream in the bottom had filled up with water and then had frozen. So the whole bottom of these channels under the ice were actually filled up with ice. So that was a bit more of a disappointing surprise.
What kinds of fish are there? I'm not quite sure about all the different species of fish in the fjord. What I do know is that there have been Greenlandic sharks in the fjord here, apparently. I don't know if this is particularly... No, it's just there's a brief sort of...
There's some caribou at the window.
Oh, well, okay. We've got some reindeer in the distance. Hopefully you might be able to see those. You'll have to comment whether you can see those reindeer over there, and this particularly lovely weather we're having. So you've seen now, anybody watching this YouTube live, seen as many reindeer this trip as we have. Okay, where are we? The average temperature at night, it's getting colder. It's I think it's getting down to, someone said 25 tonight.
Okay.
25, and we're gonna have, I'm gonna have to get sort of a calculator up just to calculate all these between all this sort of centigrade and Fahrenheit. Where are we? Maybe on this one. So minus 28, which is minus 19, minus 18, 19. Okay, we'll just bring that one down again.
What made you decide to become scientists? For me, I think I decided to become a scientist when, well, I always loved being outside. I always loved the wilderness. I loved being on canoe trips and hiking trips. And so I was always kind of interested in environmental issues and environmental history. And then when I was in university, actually, I took a course in oceanography. And it was sort of then that I thought, oh, this is what I love. I get to figure out how things work, and all the things that I see in nature, I can understand what the processes are behind them. So that was really, for me, the reason for becoming a scientist.
And I'm very, it's one of my big regrets that I didn't focus on science more when I was a student. So what I've developed is I sort of science communications and science education is what I do. So I'm not a practicing professional scientist, but I suppose we're all scientists in some way if we're curious and, you know, try and find out answers to how the world works in a structured way. But I wish I'd studied science more when I was at school.
DJ wants to know, how are there other houses? Do people always live there? Well, this is basically a village of research stations. So all of the different houses around here are either research communities belonging to a different nation, or are sort of the general infrastructure for the scientific community here. So it's kind of a new village in a way for that reason. But people do live here year round. A lot of the people who do atmospheric monitoring and run the infrastructure for this whole village live here year round. And
so Ny-Ålesund, the village we are now, a science village, started off as a mining settlement. So the houses just out here were built for a marble mine just the other side of the fjord. And just so your students get an idea, all the materials for these were brought in by boat or by ship. So it wasn't sort of built from the forest around here. It was all brought in. No forest in the Arctic or no forest on Svalbard. We could have a big discussion about whether you can have trees in the Arctic or not. It's a whole different topic. How cold is it right now? I think it's minus 18 degrees Celsius, and with wind chill, that's down to a feeling of minus 30. And for those of you who prefer Fahrenheit, that's -22 Fahrenheit with wind chill.
What special clothing do you have to wear when you go out to the glacier since it's so cold? Well, one of the things that we do when we go into the field here, because it's so cold, is that you need to have lots and lots of layers. So you start off with warm, long underwear, and then you wear probably a thick sweater and a down vest and a down jacket, and then you have a sort of weatherproof layer on the outside. We wear big boots, big mitts, and a sort of fur hat with ear flaps. And then in your bag, you bring lots of extra layers as well, because you don't want to get too hot, so you sweat and get cold, and you don't want to get too cold, so you can keep adding layers or taking off layers as you go. If you're shoveling, you get really hot, and so you have a tendency to not need any layers at all. And if you're just standing around for a while, then you can get really cold. So you have to kind of bring a whole range of things with you when you go into the field.
What specifically do you do there, and why do you do it? So there's really sort of 3-4 functions currently at the UK Arctic Research Station. We have Nick Cox, who's the station manager, who is running the station, making sure everything works, the communications, making sure that we're all briefed, safe, access to rifles, clothing, equipment, that kind of thing, who's been coming to the polar regions, or coming to Svalbard since 1978, a true kindest, most expert polar person I think I've ever met. Wonderful person to have on board. Then we have the researchers from Aberystwyth University, Stephen and Jane, and what they do every day is really looking at how to collect the data, that mapping we talked about before, and so heading up to the glacier with their laser scanner, and Dr. Phil Porter supporting them in that. Catherine Thomas from the British Antarctic Survey is a sort of field assistant, and she's making sure everybody stays safe on the glacier, and there's no snowmobiles going down crevasses and that kind of thing, and making sure the ropes are set up, really to provide that support to scientists and researchers looking to explore. And then I'll speak for myself, and Bianca can, but just really on the outreach side, communicating to schools around the world, holding live video chat sessions. We've been trying to do some virtual reality filming, although we found the camera found it a bit cold. So looking at ways we might put some sort of hand warmers inside the camera, make it a bit happier, but looking at ways that we can share this amazing place with young people around the world.
And I'm really here to work with Jamie on outreach. I'm a scientist at the British Antarctic Survey in my normal day-to-day life. And I've been working in the Arctic for 19 years now, and a little bit in the sub-Antarctic as well.
Does the temperature in the glacier vary depending on the depth, hence the water tunnels, sorry? We'd have to get a glaciologist in here to answer that, so that's quite a niche.
And I was saying actually yesterday that we should have a thermometer in the channels, because it seemed like the temperature changes quite a lot. On the outside, when you get close to the outside, it's -18 or -20, whatever it is. And then as you get towards the inside, it becomes a much more stable and warmer temperature. But I would really like to know too. So maybe we can get back to you, Ricardo, on what the temperature is.
I think towards the end of the session, keep all your, if we say that's a very glaciology specific question for this glacier, keep that question, and we'll try and bring in a member of the team towards the end of the session, maybe at about past, in about 10 minutes. We'll get all those questions in again. The travel to the glacier, that's done by snow scooter, snowmobile, skidoo, whatever you want to call it. Really easy, nice way of getting around up here.
How long does your exploration last? The field season here is just 2 weeks for these guys. I think a normal field season for most people who work in the Arctic is somewhere between 2 weeks and 2 months. But we're just here until next Friday.
Our students want to know if you ever have snowball fights. No, we're incredibly well behaved. We never do any snowball fights. No snowmen. There is no training, no tunneling, no fun. There's no fun on Arctic expeditions at all. So none of that, especially at the weekend.
What's the main goal of your exploration? For the team here, it's to figure out the internal structure of the glacier and how the meltwater channels are changing. So that's the main purpose of this trip.
What is your favorite part of the Arctic? I think it's the light. The different lights you have, everything from the northern lights to sun dogs and sun columns, to those times when the air freezes and it's walking through fairy dust. All those kind of sort of strange aspects of light. Or you get the what's the technical name for where you get that very big temperature differential, and the light bends towards the surface and things become
the Fata Morgana.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you explain that to?
Oh gosh, I don't think I can. It's like a mirage, but that's
it's like a mirage, but you get very odd things happening with the light up here, and it's stunning.
What type of tools do you use while you were there? It really depends on the science program at hand. The glaciologists right now are using this laser scanner, which maps the inside of these meltwater channels. And then there's also sort of safety gear that people need. So we basically have everything that you need for glacier exploration and working on ice. So crampons and ice axes and harnesses and ropes. So you bring all that with you as well. And then you also have field safety equipment for polar bears. So you have rifles and signal pistols, and a radio to keep in contact with the station, and an iridium phone to keep in contact with the station as well. So you have quite a lot of kit that you take with you, regardless of what the program is.
Great. Landon would like to know, is it hard to get electricity and Wi-Fi there? Well, actually, we have a generator for the whole community. So we have electricity just like you have electricity at home. We plug something in, flip the switch. And there's 2 500-ton fuel tanks here, and they get filled up during the summer. But we don't have any backup here. So if the generator were to go down, that's it. There's no, and we'd try and repair it from here. Well, the team would. And Wi-Fi is banned in Ny-Ålesund because it interferes with some of the scientific instrumentation. But we do have very good sort of wired internet, and that's how we're communicating with you. And that's connected with a subsea fiber optic cable to the mainland in Norway.
Grace wants to know, what kind of scientific things do you do? I can answer what I do scientifically. I'm a paleoclimatologist, which means that I look at the way that the past climate has changed and compare it to the present and the warming that's occurring. So what I do is I go out and I take cores from lakes and use those cores to go back in time, and I look at the fossils and the pollen and the algae and figure out how the environment has changed over thousands of years.
So that's sort of like climate CSI.
It is like detective work.
How many thousand years do you go back?
Here in the Arctic, you can go back up to 13,000 years, and in the sub-Antarctic, around 15,000 years is our longest record. So, amazing. Yeah. What scientists have you seen? We've seen scientists from all sorts of nations.
I think the fantastic thing here is a really lovely international flavor to the science. And I think that comes to the fact that in order to improve our knowledge of here of environmental science, is that sort of feel of international collaboration. It's not something that's being kept for one country. It's actually a sort of a joint process of discovery. So it's really nice having that international feeling of collaboration here. We all eat in the same sort of canteen area. I think it's 11 different countries have stations here. But we could have in the summer, when there's more researchers here, 20 plus different countries represented.
Yeah.
Scientists everywhere, more scientists than anything else.
It's true. Same caribou. Joey wants to know, what's your favorite animal? I don't know. What's your favorite animal?
I've just got this fixation for seeing a narwhal. So I really want to see a narwhal. And this is probably not the time of year, definitely not the time of year, definitely not the place to be viewing a narwhal. So yes. Coming up to sort of Ellesmere, is that where's it? Baffin, Ellesmere?
Yeah, around Baffin Island is good.
Okay. Any particular time of year?
No, I don't know.
Just Baffin Island. We'll have to work out a trip to Baffin Island at some point soon. Orcas.
Have I seen orcas? No.
There we go.
Have you seen orcas?
We can see pretty well nothing except for a couple of lost reindeer at the moment on the animal front. So this I'm very sorry. We will try and train the wildlife of the Arctic to be better prepared for these live sessions. How do we get food? It gets shipped in every couple of months, and we will eat centrally at the canteen. But very importantly, we also try and nick a packet of biscuits for the station. So we've got that during the day to keep us going.
How long did it take you to get there? This is actually a really easy place to get to in the Arctic because you can fly from London to Oslo. We flew from London to Oslo, and then to Longyearbyen, which is the town in Svalbard. And then that's only a 25-minute flight from New Ålesund. So in terms of getting to the Arctic, this is quite an easy place to get to. Other places you can wait for days and days for the weather to get better, and you have to take a lot of smaller planes. So yeah, it's quite easy.
DJ would like to know, can the glacier flip? Not when it's on land, but I imagine that if a bit of glacier came off the end, carved off the end, was an iceberg, then if the iceberg started to change shape or broke apart, then you'll start to get that bit of ice from the glacier flipping and turning, and it can be very, very dangerous to be near an iceberg when it's unbalanced in the water like that.
Does your mission have something to do with global warming? Yes, pretty much everything. Most of the science nowadays that takes place on land or in the ocean is trying to understand how these systems change. So what happens to a glacier when it warms, for example, or what happens to an ecosystem when it warms, and to kind of give us an idea of how to prepare for the future and how these systems behave in their natural way so that we can kind of predict what will happen in the years to come. So yes, everything seems to have to do with global warming.
How do you get power on your basic needs? I think that it's really interesting insofar as that the research stations here have been set up to provide an infrastructure for science. So maybe 50 plus years ago that scientists had to do far more of their own sort of getting around and field work and surviving in the extremes, and now it's the idea is that the scientists should be doing science and there's a support infrastructure around that. And so the power is brought in on a fuel ship. The basic needs are also shipped in. There's an organization called Kings Bay, which runs all those facilities here. There's a marine lab. There's boats to go out on. There's a skidoo hire, snowmobile hire, potential rifle hire, rifle training, biscuits, tea, soup, stew, pudding, that kind of thing, just to keep you going.
So that's kind of the food that we eat. Yeah, you tend to eat a little bit more when it's colder, and so or a lot more when it's colder. So yeah, the food is quite hearty, and we eat lots of it, and it's also quite delicious.
More stew than salad, I would say.
Yeah, a little low on vegetables and fruit, and yeah, lots of carbs and meat. Question for Bianca. You also paint in your free time. Could you explain how the science art mix works for you, and maybe send a message to students who are undecided which career path to choose? It's true, I do paint in my free time when I get it, and it's really quite nice because what I usually paint are the places that I work in. So when I go into a new field site and I have some spare time, then I get out my paints and sketch it and paint it. And so I can kind of understand the landscapes better that I'm working in because I'm painting them. And at the same time, because I know how the landscapes are formed and because I understand how they evolve, it kind of helps my painting too. So they work together really nicely. So in that way, if you're deciding choosing between science and art, You can kind of, I do both, and I think that they work quite nicely together. And I think, you know, there's quite a lot of pressure to choose one career and to choose one path, but you can maybe find your own path that involves lots of different things, and then it's kind of more original that way.
I think it's probably a question more for those looking to follow a sort of academic science career as well, which is how long did you have to go to college for?
Well, I did an undergrad degree, which was 4 years, and I did a master's, which was 2 years, and then I did a PhD, which was a little more than 3 years, but 3 years is the minimum. So altogether, that is 9 years, which sounds like a lot, but when you're doing your own research projects, which I have been which I did do for the last 5 years, then you're kind of doing your work already. So it's sort of like a long apprenticeship. And if you love it, then it feels great. It's good.
Great. Are there a series of scientists that are coming in for research sessions? I think that's sort of really referring to the sort of UK Arctic Research Station and the other research stations here that operate as bases. So almost it's like, I don't want to say like visiting a youth hostel, but it's sort of like kind of thing where the Research Council, so the Natural Environmental Research Council, funds this base from the UK, and it's really a facility that UK based researchers can use, and they can say, actually, yes, you know, we need to come and take a measurement from an Arctic glacier, and we'd love to come from, you know, in the first 2 weeks of March, and you sort of arrange it in that way. And so there are a whole series of research projects, mainly in the sort of July, September, I think, for the station here, in the summer months, coming in from doing everything from sort of microbes in soil samples to bacteria living in snow to the impact of ocean chemistry changes on krill in the fjord, all these different things, and all coming to stay here. So it's amazing for scientists to have this kind of facility to be able to come to this remote environment and be able to operate, in a really lovely way. It's great. I love it here.
Great.
Are we trying to find somebody to answer the?
Shall I go ask?
Yeah, go find a glaciologist. Look, we need a glaciologist, and just by chance we have 3 in the building. How long are you in Svalbard for? I was in the school chat on Wednesday. Thank you, Hannah. We're in Svalbard for another week. So hopefully we've been here for a week. We've managed 2 full half days of surveying. And we really hope the weather picks up and we can actually get much more work done. But it's one of the problems of working in the Arctic when the conditions and the weather aren't great. If I had the chance, would I like to stay for longer? Yes, in one way, but no. Insofar as I miss my children and wife too much to stay for longer. So I'd like to come back, but not being away from home for too long. Stephen is here, and we're just going to.
Stephen and Jane are here.
Stephen and Jane are here. We're just going back to Ricardo's question. Does the temperature in the glacier vary depending on the depth? And is that why you get the meltwater that you found at the bottom of the chamber?
Okay. Yeah, so depending on the depth of the thickness of the glacier, changes the temperature at the bottom. So we have things called polythermal glaciers, temperate glaciers, and cold-based glaciers. And they're defined depending on what the temperature is at the bottom. So temperate glaciers at the melting point. You tend to find these in the Alps and places like that, where you have liquid water at the bed and you get meltwater coming out the front of the glacier. Then the polar glaciers, the cold-based glaciers, are totally frozen at the bed, so much colder. And they stick, so it's below the freezing point of the water at the bed of the glacier. And polythermal glaciers are a mixture of both. and this is usually depends on the thickness. Where you've got lots of thick ice, it insulates the base of the glacier, so you get melt. And at the edges of the glacier where it's thinner, it tends to freeze to the bed, so you get water buildup behind.
So although, I mean, we've been telling the classes and people listening that it's with wind chill, it's -30 today, and yet inside a glacier you've got this running water surrounded by ice. How is that melting happening?
Well, we've had a warm period before now, so because the ice insulates the bed of the glacier, it takes a while for the outside temperature to have an effect. So because we've just had a recent warm period, we've got that liquid water still kind of flowing from then, and it takes a while to kind of soak through.
Brilliant, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Runway.
One more question. How do you keep the pipes from freezing?
Pipes. Lots of insulation.
Lots of insulation, there we go. What special gear do you need to use to get in the glacier, and has anyone ever been hurt doing research on the glacier? I think we've a bit out of frame there.
Yeah, our glaciologists have left. Special gear you need basically ice travel equipment. So you need to bring ice axes and crampons so you don't slip on the ice. You need ropes for going down into the holes in the ice, and also if there's any crevasses. So you also need harnesses, and you need special equipment to go along with that, and a helmet. So that's basically, if you're going down into the glacier from the top, then you need to get lower down a rope, and so you need basically all of the equipment that you need for rappelling or abseiling. And if you're going in through the side like we did yesterday, then you can really just walk in, but you need to make sure that you don't slip, and that you have all the right equipment for like a headlamp, head torch on your helmet so you can see. Has anyone ever been hurt doing research on the glacier? I don't know if they've been hurt on this glacier. I know in the history of glaciology, there have been a lot of people who've been hurt working on glaciers, because there's lots of crevasses, and there's, yeah, you have to be quite careful. But I'm not sure of any incidences here.
No, well, touch wood that the team have been fantastic, really great in terms of keeping us safe, being very professional, in allowing us to explore amazing places, but in a safe way.
Yeah.
Emily would like to know how long it would take for a water bottle to freeze if you put it outside. I've thought about doing this earlier, and I'll definitely now do it tomorrow. I will take this water bottle and I will fill it up with water. I'll put a GoPro watching it, and then I'll try and judge the time when I can open it and tip it over my head and hope I don't get wet. Emily and your whole class, what I'd love you to do is a 1 litre water bottle. Can you put your best guesses online or send them through to you, and we can pick a winner? In fact, anybody, this is today's Twitter Blitz quiz. How long, and you can look at the forecast for Ny-Ålesund online tonight, how long will it take for a 1 litre bottle of water to freeze? We will put it outside with a time-lapse GoPro and announce a winner tomorrow.
And the starting temperature will be room temperature. The
starting temperature will be, room. How warm is the room?
22 degrees.
Is it? It's a bit cold, but roughly. Roughly cold out of the tap, sort of 10. Anyway, how long? Guess. Have fun. Try and work it out. Look at all the different variables, and we'll look to pick the winner. Great thing to do on Saturday morning if you didn't have anything else to do. Your class says 5 minutes. We need 5 minutes. I want sort of each student just to pick that, their particular time. Is at 4 minutes 59 seconds? Is it 5 minutes 2 seconds? We need to get really down to the second. Tomorrow I'm going to looking for all those names so we can send up. The person who gets this right, I will send you a postcard congratulating you from the northernmost post office in the world. There we go, that's a deal.
Cool.
Any more questions? I think we're nearing the end of our session today. It's been lovely having you all on board, and some great questions. Great to get the glaciologists in to polythermal, Arctic, and
polar, polythermal, and temperate.
Exactly. You learn something every day. So great. Thank you very much for that. Wonderful. I'm excited to see how long it takes too. I'm excited not to get my head wet at -20. That would be bad. But thank you so much all for taking part, and look forward to seeing you on Monday. We'll be hopefully inside a glacier all weekend. We're back on Monday, and we'll see you then. Thank you so much. There you go. There's a big sort of shout out for Bianca.
Yeah, great. I loved it too. That was great.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Come up with your best guess for the freezing water challenge, and look forward to being back in touch with the XL Catlin Arctic Live YouTube sessions Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. Fantastic. Bye-bye.